United WFC. Hello and welcome to All For United with me, John Foster, MUFC. Got 6 people on the show tonight. It's going to be a good one. How's everyone doing?
Good.
Good.
Yeah,
Good.
Yeah.
Monday.
Yeah, for Monday, yeah. So we're going to be talking quite a bit of stuff today. We're going to be talking about our goalkeepers on one half of the show. So shout out to Sophie Baggaley today for her birthday. Mary Earps is going to be the big one. You know, should she be our England number one now, or should Roebuck come straight back in? It's going to be interesting to see what people think, because we might have a bit of a difference of opinion on this one. But Nat, I want you to kind of start the show really on a tweet that Tom Gary put out, and you jumped on it regarding the Leicester vacancy. Take it away now.
Yeah, I've actually done, definitely tune into United Star because talk about that. But it's just some girl called Lydia is going to take over. That's what he's put. He understands. I think that's pretty much true. That's bang on, because I saw Emma then tweet it. But that wasn't even the crux of it. That's just by the by. She's worked with England under 14s to 19s. So basically, this under 19s now with Tara and Ruby Mace and all those kind of people. Lydia's took them from babies to now women, can I say. But the one thing that stood out, it was that Charlotte Healy is linked with the first team coach. And for me, I tweeted it and I said, I feel like it'd be worse than Casey. And that might be, people might say, no, but I feel like Charlotte took this when we first had our first team and Casey did what she did. We didn't have a under 21s team. It was just a development team. They came through. And, you know, it's Tom Fitton who's been on. He's even talked about it. He took them all the way to the cup final. So the talent was always there. But I feel like the reason why I say it's worse is because Charlotte's brought in talent. Look at Carrie now. She didn't come through our academy. She brought her in. Tara, she brought her in. There's even 3 Liverpool girls now that she's brought in. Emily Braun, Emily Taylor, and Annie Hutchinson. She's basically got a hand over all from 14 below to 16 because she's an academy manager. I know that she's bringing through 16s now, and they're playing up in the 21s. You know, obviously Kana came in, whether Kana was already there because of Ollie, I don't know. But, you know, I think she's bringing in talent from all around. Not saying that no one else can't do that. Of course they can. But for me, I feel like that is sort of what it's all about. Man United is about the DNA. It's about the youngsters coming through. And like I said, she's taken it from nothing, just her coming in. I remember the first game, I was there. They played Sheffield, and it was just her and one other staff member. She's brought in her own coaches. She's brought in, you know, they've got their own physios, psychologists, all that kind of stuff. And yes, the club can do it, but we've seen it can take a while. You know, that would concern me. If she went now, it would be concerning that, you know, what's next? Where do we go? Would it all fall apart? I mean, I hope it wouldn't, but that would be my concern. And, you know, it's a step up for it in that it's, you know, into a first team if she does get it. But for me, I'd be devastated. I know a lot of people have replied to those tweets and saying that they don't want her to leave because, you know, like I said, she's that main hub person. You know, she's that main person that does a lot of it. Everyone goes to. So for me, I think that there is other academy managers out there, yeah, but I'd be devastated if she left. Like you say, even really going to Leicester, sorry, Craney, but it's a downward step going into a first team, yeah, you could say, but are Leicester going to stay up? You know, this Lydia and this other guy that they're talking of bringing in, look at Tom Gary for the names, they've never done senior football, they've only ever done youth football. So then she's going to be under people who are probably not even that experienced, you know, in that respect. Like I said, I hope she stays. For me, it's just as big a loss or even bigger as Casey. I know people might think that's over the top. Maybe it is, but that's how I feel about it because, like I said, I've seen her take it from nothing, literally her and one physio, to the team, the setup. They've got about 12 members of staff. They take them, now they're doing overnights and stuff like that. They never did that ever before, and I feel like she's a big part of it. Maybe with the support of Casey, she's felt like, oh, I don't know, maybe it's not as great under Mark. I don't want to know. I don't want to speculate, but for me, it would be a massive, massive loss if she did leave United. Just want to hear everyone else's point, like what they've heard about her, how they feel if she did leave. I know probably people don't watch the 21s as sort of closely as I do or other people do, but, you know, would you be upset or concerned if she did leave with the record that we've got?
Yeah, I think I would. Like, assimilating it to Casey is quite apt. She's brought that team, like you say, from nothing and got structures in that will last for the next, 10 years or whatever, if not longer. And it shows a sign of, and especially at United, of loyalty by sticking by her and proving in the process that she's doing and that she's doing a good job. So letting her leave is definitely a negative.
Franny, Nat mentioned Leicester and Vicky's mentioning Leicester in the comments as well. But can you see like the other side of it? Like obviously we're all United fans, so obviously we want to make sure that we keep.
We're all United fans, so we're going to Ukraine for that alternative.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I was going to say.
You don't have
Just say it as it is.
John.
Stitch you up, mate.
I myself up because what I was going to say was, would that be like a natural progression now to leave a top team to go to more of a lower club in that area, but like being number one as opposed to being a dev coach? Sorry, I didn't mean it as if you were a Leicester fan.
It just comes out naturally, doesn't it, John?
Yeah.
Used to the stick that I get for that. No, I think. Well, Nat will be able to tell me this. Am I right, Nat, in thinking she's from Derby?
She's from that area, yeah.
So a chance to return near to home and a chance to step up to be a number 2 or a first team coach, whatever. I can see why she'd be linked and possibly tempted to jump, but then I don't know. I just think if you're at Man United, you're not going to get a better opportunity to not only progress yourself as a coach, working under like Mark and his little crew, but I think, in terms of being able to bring through the next generation at a club like Man United, I don't think there's a better opportunity. So I suppose I can see it from both sides if you want me to sort of sit on the fence. But yeah, I think like Nat said, I think it's just difficult to replace somebody like that because obviously she's been here now for 4 years. She knows the club inside out. The girls that have been here for a while know her. Those that have been here for sort of 2-3 seasons that are still with us. So it's hard, isn't it? And obviously when you're picking a coach, there's many different aspects you want, and especially when it's something as big as, like I say, developing the next generation. I don't know who we'd turn to or where we'd go, if that makes sense, in terms of replacing if she did go. But
the only other one I feel is of the standard, and this is through me just watching a lot last year before it was locked down, and these guys gave us really when we play these guys, they're the only other team that I see. I heard a lot of people talking about Man City, but no. The only other team in that WSL league that I see on par with Man United, and bearing in mind, I think we've been unbeaten for. I think we lost the other day, but before that we've been unbeaten since before COVID. That's how long. But the only other team is the Aston Villa, and there's a guy called Jack Peel. And like I said, if there's any Villa fans or Birmingham fans that know who I'm talking about, he's sort of doing the similar thing at Villa, and they look good. And Villa bring through youth. Like, I know Villa first team and our first team, it's a big difference. But I mean, if you look as well at Tara when she signed her deal, and when Carrie signed a deal, especially the picture, because I've retweeted it today, it was always pictures with Charlotte. It was always saying, Charlotte, I want to thank Charlotte. Yeah, Charlotte then ended up saying about Carrie, it's not just us. We basically offered her the thing from Cardiff, and it's one of those. But you know, they're both talking about Charlotte, and you know, I think there's players there now that are older, that could be in first teams now, but they're potentially staying there because of Charlotte. You know, I know Mark's talked about there being a plan for each player, and are they sort of more trusting that plan because, you know, Charlotte's there telling them, no, it is, you know, if you want to be here and you want to be playing the first team, this is the longer term plan, and trust me, you know, that kind of thing. Whereas if and suddenly a new face comes in, takes that time to assimilate, get used to it. Like I said, a lot of them coaches know Charlotte. I'd be devastated. I would. I really just think, you know, first team manager, it means something, but I think the youth, you've got to have that specialness, and you know, it would be that kind of step up in a way. She's young. She can, you know, she'll want to be in a first team. She might be gutted that she's not sort of first team coach, you know, like Martin got it instead. I don't know. But, you know, I don't know whether Matt thinks that Martin would go back to being academy manager. I don't know. He might, you know, he's probably set now in the first team, which I can imagine. But like I said, the only other person that would be close is the Villa, same position, Jack Peel. So like I said, anyone heard of him, get in the comments and tell us whether you think he's good or whether you think, you know, he'll go over to Man United.
And did you have your side of this one before I bring up a few comments?
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I think, to be honest, hopefully my reaction, you know, sits somewhere in the middle. I mean, when I saw it, I knew she was important from obviously speaking to Nat and others and such like. I was like, all right, okay. But actually, the more you've outlined it, Nat, the more I'm thinking, yeah, actually, this definitely could be another Casey leaving. I mean, obviously, I saw a comment in there about, you know, why would you go to a low-level club? Well, it depends what she wants to do as a career. I mean, obviously, Mark started off as Birmingham's youth coach himself, didn't he? So it depends if she eventually wants to be a manager of a WSL team, or whether or not she wants to be a top-class like specialist for development players, like, you know, like working with England maybe, or, you know, something to do with bringing the youth over. If it's likely going to be the sort of former, then unfortunately that's probably the way it's going to go. You get a chance at a lower level, kind of think of it as a championship elect team. Sorry, Matt, in Leicester, and then maybe the next step would be what, assistant manager. So maybe that'll be a chance team, and you don't know. I mean, she's clearly got the skills. I mean, look at our sort of view we've got with United. We are building on youth, and she's got a very good eye for youth. And you can see certainly in the women's game, you can get quite far with kids, to bastardize the old saying. You know, and I think someone who could add value and spot value. And if Nat was saying, if some people are hanging around a bit longer than they necessarily would do normally because they've got that connection, she might find it very, very easy to get players to come along. So hopefully United are either going to get her to able to stay, or more likely at least be a bit careful on the replacement. I'm not saying Skinner was the wrong decision, but it was done quite late or it was done quite quick, depending on what view you want to look on it. But hopefully, you know, you need to understand they can't just switch somebody else in who works in the academy. It has to be a really strong piece in our armory.
Yeah, I was get Colin to say something on this as well. I mean, put yourself in her shoes. Would it be a step down, or is it just a way into a career that she might actually want? Obviously, the club stature is obviously a massive step down, but it's not necessarily a step down. If you was like a young player who wanted to get some game time, I think we've spoken before about players going out on loan and then coming back, or even leaving the club and then coming back into higher status. Is that something that could potentially be going through her mind?
No, I think Andy's right. It depends what she wants to do in her career, because academy coaching is completely different to first team coaching, because academy football is not about results as such. It's about developing the players, whereas first team coaching is about the results. So if that's the career she wants to go down, then the best move for her is to move wherever that is, if that is Leicester, or maybe it is, you know, another side. Obviously, it's, you know, just talking about Leicester at the moment, but it literally all depends on where her career goes. If she wants to stay in an academy setup, then there's no point in leaving as such, because you're at the biggest club in the world. You may as well stay where you are. But if she wants to become like a head coach and maybe, you know, go assistant manager and then manager of a a WSL side or a championship side, whatever, then she probably does need to move on, because there's not really going to be that pathway. I don't think I've ever seen it in. I can only base it off the men's, because the women's team's only been going for 3-4 years, where an academy coach has gone up into the first team setup and then become manager or assistant manager. I don't think I've ever seen it. Some people might correct me if there are examples, but so if she wants to become like first team coach and these kind of things in the first team, then she probably needs to move on, as upsetting as it is for people that watch, the academy and things like that. But it as simply put it, Andy's right, it literally depends what she wants to do in her career.
I just want to touch on sort of maybe her career to date. She has, I don't know where she exactly started, but she has coached the academy at Man City, then went to Liverpool, and obviously now she's at Man United. So I don't know if you can still hear us, John. Anyone lost sound? You still hear me? Yeah. So she has gone and coached at various academies. So I don't know what her career path is. I don't know what she wants. Maybe it's totally changed. There was rumblings of a few coaches wanting to leave when Casey left, because there was a bit of a frying pan fire when Casey left. I think it was just a bit ad hoc and no one knew what was going on, etc., etc. So there was, murmurings. I don't know if she was one of them, but I heard that Leicester came sniffing for some of our coaches. Didn't obviously happen, whether it's her or anyone else, I don't know. But obviously they're coming up, WSL. They wanted like a good, getting for a coach to leave Man United to come to Leicester. That's brilliant. That's banging for Leicester. That's massive for them. So obviously they're gonna want to see that. But I'd just be devastated. I mean, I linked her to this job, and I know you don't see it a lot. I had linked her before Skinner, because we have seen Martin Ho was the assistant. Martin Ho was under her, and then obviously climbed up. I know Martin had previously experience of doing, a first team kind of thing, but he came into our club originally as her assistant for the development team, and I'm not sure that she couldn't have done that step up instead of him. I'm not saying he's a bad thing, not trying to slag him off, but I think he's great, Martin. But I just know that she's great too, and I think she, like what Andy says, it's not about. I would even want the club. She's under contract. I'd even want the club to maybe say, "Listen, we're coming up to a winter break. Stay with us until then, and then at least there's a period when everyone's on Christmas that they can sort it out between now and Christmas. You stay till the end. If someone's under contract, they have to see it out. Kind of not see it out, but you have to do a notice period. And I think the last game is the middle of Christmas, so is the middle of December. So for me, I think see it out until at least minimum then, rather than, because that article talks about everyone being in place by a Man United game. I mean, that would be devastating, I think, because there's 2 or 3 games that need to come up. So it would be who would drop down. Would Martin go and take it? I don't think we've got enough coaching staff really currently. I don't think you could just pull someone. I don't know where they'd pull someone from. Maybe pull from the men's to go and just manage a couple of games, because you wouldn't get someone in that quick. So for me, I don't think we should be letting her leave that quick. I think do it at period. So, when the break happens, then if she does want to go, then let her leave then. But I think if they're talking about someone going, for Sunday, I just think, unless she properly pushes it, I just think it would be madness for us to do that madness. Yes, you can go, but you go when we're ready. You go at the break. Like I said, I know they've got a game coming up, 3 games left, pretty much. So it's there's no point. I don't know who would take them, because Martin can't just leave the first team to go and take them. So where would a coach come from? I don't know. But yeah, see what everyone else saying.
Well, Nathan, let's just ask you one more thing, and then obviously we can go around the table one more time. But in an ideal world, would you like to see her come into the first team somehow, so she would have a better opportunity to take Skinner's place when he does eventually leave? Is that like a kind of setup that you'd like to see? Like her one?
I was pro Charlotte Healy taking this job before Skinner. I mean, I think even when Skinner came in, I do a bit more. I don't know where I'm up to. I'm a bit more for him maybe than I was before, but I'm still not for him. I still go and shout at him, but I was Healy. But I'm coming round to the way he's doing things. I really am. I know that might surprise people. I do think we're close. I think he needs a bit more coaches. I think I said it on the Friday forum with a lot of you that are on here now. Investment, it's not just the first team, it's the whole structure of it. That's why I'm saying if she just left now, there would be no one. There would be literally no one to take that academy, because the first team still got games. There would be no one to take their training. So, that's what I'm talking about. Investment, investment would be, a lot of coaches, if for example, if Neil Wood, I mean, Connor will know better than me, but if Neil Wood left tomorrow, there'd be someone in, bang, straight away, Whereas the women's side, we've not got that kind of deep structure of hundreds of coaches. So this is where the investment's needed. And I know with the women's team is different than the men's team, but probably like Tom might step up again, but he's doing FC, so I don't know. There might be someone, Emma Fletcher, she's sort of a lot around the RTC, so she might take it because a lot of them girls know her. And if anyone don't know Emma Fletcher, she's been there since Tooney, since Hansen, since Zelly. She sort of was that kind of, still is the overseer of the RTC. So she might come in. That's the only place I can see it would happen. But then you think, what about the other girls, the younger girls? Who's she going to coach them? It'd just be, I don't know, it just would really hurt. But like I said, if she wants to do it, yeah, you don't stand in the way. But, in a way, we have to do it when it's right for both rather than just right for her.
Do you want to come in on that one, Matt?
Matt didn't get the memo.
No, I got the memo. I was just waiting, but no, it's fine. Yeah, I think just to sort of finish off on that, John, it's one of them where, like Nat says, I think if you're doing it, do it over the winter break, because there is, like, she had that 2, maybe 3 week gap, and I think it's just a settling in period. Obviously, you don't want to sort of replace somebody with a couple of games and then it sort of breaks up. You need that time to get to know people and to get sort of the job done, or the job sort of, rolling. So, yeah, I mean, listen, there's no sort of perfect timing whenever anybody leaves, really. But I think if there was to be an ideal time, it would be then. Now, in terms of obviously like Martin and that, I wouldn't think he'd go back. He spent years in the men's and the women's game previous to obviously coming in as assistant. And obviously, like Nat said, he was assistant to Charlotte for the Devs for a little bit and then got promoted. But I think if we're going for somebody, I've just chucked it in our little chat now. Andy Spence, currently with the England setup, well known to Martin as well. So would provide that link between, I think somebody mentioned in the comments before about a link between first team and Devs. He would do that. Very good coach, worked wonders with Everton. And like I say, now he's currently doing a bit of coaching with the England age groups. I think he's with the 19s at the minute. I think somebody I've mentioned to you before, and that as well. I think when we talked about assistant managers, and we said, he could come in when we were looking to replace Glenn. So it's one of them. I don't think, I mean, for me personally, looking at it from sort of a coaching point of view, I wouldn't say it's a step down, but it depends what you want, because obviously I can't see her getting a chance with the first team. I really can't, because I don't think Martin's going nowhere. He brought in that guy from Orlando. Is it Carl Green? Something like that, Alan Green, one of them. So yeah, I think like Nat mentioned, if you're looking to progress, you want to take over as either a first team coach or, even a manager. You've got to basically leave, haven't you, to get where you want to be. So it depends on career ambitions, really. I guess money's one thing, progressing your career is another for me. So see what happens.
Conor, I'll just finish up with yourself. So I'll put this comment on screen, and I think it's quite interesting. I know you follow the men's academy team and obviously the men's senior team, but you do see links there, don't you, in regards to the playing style, etc. And it is true, you do need to be able to walk straight in from that reserve team or under 21, 23 team to go straight into the senior team. Do you want to kind of touch on that as well?
Yeah, I mean, it depends. I don't know Mark Skinner well enough, but I know for a fact that Ollie himself was very involved in the academy teams, and that link was definitely there in the men's. Ollie would go to the academy games, the 23s, the 19s, asking around, speaking to the families. So that connection was there between the academy coaches and Ollie. Whether Skinner's got the same involvement, whether these meetings happen. Like, I know for a fact in the men's there are monthly or quarterly meetings that happen about certain players and asking about certain players' development. What happens with the women's, I'm not too sure, but it is very important to have that link. Go on, Nat, do you want to answer that before?
No, what I do know is that I know under Casey they used to have monthly meetings. It was Casey. I mean, God, I'm giving all the plans away now. Casey, the goalkeeper coach, Ian, Healy. So they would all have one person and they'd all have the plans for them. Like I said, reading Skinner's comments recently when he talked about Maz, he sort of insinuated those plans are still there. Obviously, I don't know who's doing it, whether Carl's sort of involved a lot, whether Martin's involved because he's been involved before. Obviously, I don't know fully, but, the plan is there for every player. Not every player's plan is the same, if you get what I mean. Like, we're seeing 2 players on loan, but then we're seeing maybe people who are maybe older, maybe not on loan. So I think that's the plan, and they're training up. So it's every player is going to be different. I'm seeing a lot of players training up more than we did under Casey. So I feel like he is involved. There was pictures the other day, and he was down at the RTC looking, watching like the under-14s and all that kind of stuff. So he is aware, and he'll be aware of. Well, he did say it's taken him a long time. It's not done it as quickly as he wanted to. I think he probably would have wanted to have seen a lot more of the 21s. But I think because he's come in late and he's had to sort out a lot of stuff, he's maybe not been able to do it. But then that's, again, investment. They need to have people who can, cover him maybe. I don't know, what I mean? There needs to be more coaches that if he needs to go and watch an under-21 training session, he can go and do that, you know what I mean? And someone else can step up and take it. Not saying that they can't do that, but, I don't know. This is all linking back to what he says, what all the concerns that are about. But I know in terms of what you just said about Ollie and the plans and the meetings, that happens with the women as well.
Yeah, and it to back up my point, so that conversation needs to happen. And not only that, this is what I was just saying about Charlotte as well and her kind of career, where I said academy football is different to first team, because I said academy football is not necessarily about results. It's more about the player development. So now with Skinner coming in, as we all know, different style to Casey, might be having those conversations going, right, okay, well, I'm looking for players that can do this rather than what Casey was then looking for. So I hope those conversations are happening. But to the original question, it is very important that a youth setup and the first team manager are very interlinked, because every manager is going to have their own style. And it's why I'm so against changing a manager so often, because a new manager comes in, they then look at a set of players differently. So it's good to have that stability.
Can I just touch before we go on to something else? And I know you were saying about Andy Spence, and maybe you might bring in him. I don't know. Well, that Jack Peel, who is at Villa, I know they've worked together, Skinner and him. So I don't know whether he's worked with Spence, but that Jack will know, because he's been at Birmingham himself, Villa, he's around the Midland. He'll know Skinner. For me, that just makes perfect sense. I'm not saying Andy Spence came in, great too, but for me, Jack makes perfect sense. That would be the, Jack or the one that you said, Matt. But yeah, it's just, I think Vicky said something. It's coming to fruition now. I mean, someone said since 2018 we've had an academy player in our thing, sort of like the men's. But obviously those academy players were like Zelly, Tooney, people we brought back. Yes, they've come through the academy, but they're brought back. Now we're seeing like Tara, Carrie. These are like, even though they did come in and she brought them in, these are like, it feels a bit different with them because they actually are academy players and they've signed the first professional contract with us. And, it just, I feel like what Vicky's saying, it's starting to come to the fruition now. I think there's, obviously Chloe Williams has just gone out on loan. There's obviously a plan there. She's doing quite well at Blackburn. So the plan might be, give her more minutes towards the end of this year. I don't know, towards the end of the season. And then she might be the next one getting a contract. You're starting to see those girls who she started with coming through now. And, I don't know what, obviously, if it is first team football, fair play to her, go and get it. But I think the fact that she's been at this will be a third academy now. It might not be. She might be happy with what's going on. I just hope that they have a plan for whatever, if she does sort of say, you know, I want to leave, hopefully they have a plan of who they're bringing in and it's the right person, man or woman.
Yeah, and just to sort of support on that saying there as well, I mean, I'm just thinking about a positive. If she does go, yeah, it's going to be a loss. But the first thing I would say is we've been discussing Skinner as well. He seems to Casey was obviously great manager, but the biggest thing that I could see is that she'd bring academy players on the bench, but she'd never play them. And at least Mark is actually bringing them through and playing them. And I think nothing inspires an academy player to see one of their own actually get a game. Because there's one thing getting on the bus and getting the match day experience and that kind of thing. There's another thing to go, Blooming actually played. So if we do have a negative, it's going to be a massive loss if Charlotte leaves. But one positive I would say is maybe the gap can be bridged a little bit by a manager who genuinely, wants to link in with the youth setup and bring them forward to play. I mean, we were discussing off air previously that he was an academy coach himself at Birmingham. So he obviously has that youth, eye himself, and he might be quite comfortable in that as well. So hopefully it won't be as bad as it looks like, because we'll have a bit of extra there with the first team manager. Hopefully, as you say, as long as he can resource wise, bring them on himself a little bit. Whereas with Casey, yes, she had a great setup, but for some reason she just never played the academy. I think she played Rebecca May once or twice. I mean, it for a very short period. I just never got the impression that they were ever going to get moved over like Carrie Jones has. So that's just like a positive. I'm not dissing on Casey. I'm just thinking of a positive if she does leave.
We have spent half an hour on Charlotte Healy, so we do want to move on to goalkeepers. But before we do that, just want to touch on this one that Marty's put on the screen. So we need to start buying into Skinner's kind of style. You're probably the most balanced one out of all of us when it comes to Skinner, and you say some good stuff, you might say some bad stuff. Whereas me, I'm very pro Skinner, and there's people in the comments.
No,
I am. I'll give it away. But you're quite balanced. I mean, how do you kind of just see that comment? I mean, have you kind of bought into his style, even though you're not necessarily a fan of it? Are you okay with it?
Turn the microphone on, that might help. Yeah, it's. I think what my opinion is irrelevant. I think the club have made their decision and they're not going to change their mind. If I'm going to boil it down to anything, he's now on the mural on Old Trafford. So if he was going to be a short-term fix, that wouldn't have happened. That is literally probably all it's going to boil down to. He knows how United play, and he knows obviously how his tactics work. And if they were so vastly different, I don't think he would have been offered the job in the first place. He could develop at United himself. Yes, he has a lot of experience as a coach, but you learn different things at different clubs. So it's probably a learning curve for both parties, as in United and Skinner. And hopefully we start getting the 3 points on the board.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we could do a whole show on Skinner's tactics, couldn't we? But we're going to move on. There is something that came out on Twitter today from Sports Desk, and I think Natalie, was it you that shared it in the group chat a little earlier? Where could we all be going in January now?
Malta, baby. We were supposed to be there before, when COVID happened. It would have been that summer we would have gone there, but now they're looking like 4th of January. So any Maltese over there, anyone close to Malta, definitely go. I'm in America. I'm living my life, mate. But it'll be good. Away day, innit? Euro aways.
We got to move on, because we don't want to talk too much about that. But let's see if anything develops, because it has been in the pipeline for a very long time, hasn't it? So there's a good chance that something might happen there. Mary Earps and Matt, I've kind of put her on the thumbnail. To me, I think she's underrated. I know with the Lionesses, we can talk quite comfortably saying that, oh, well, we've been playing the weaker opposition, but England very often play weaker opposition to keep 5 clean sheets and make some very good saves as well for club and country. Where do you kind of put Mary Earps at the moment in regards to England's number one?
Right there, where you said, I smiled actually, because I'm glad you said underrated, because people laughed when I said this, and the amount of slating she took when she signed and people chucking a fit, and I could never understand why. I think Emma would probably back me up on this, because Sheila's seen her before. She's never been a bad keeper. There might have been a couple of bits where she might have been wobbly, maybe distribution. But if you look at her shot stopping and her handling, it's pretty much spot on. So Mary, yeah, England's number one, should have never been chucked behind the likes of KB or her that can't catch a cold, that's at Chelsea's number 5 or whatever she is now. So yeah, I think, listen, I'm delighted she's been given a chance, because I think what Phil did was just unforgivable. He just binned her off for no reason, no explanation. And it got to the stage where she kind of come out and said, you know, I'm a bit disheartened, but it is what it is. I'll take it on the chin and move on. Fair play, top professional. And then Serena's sort of brought her back into the fold, and I think rightly so. You know, people might say it's due to Roebuck being injured. Maybe it is. Not really bothered. She's back in there, to be honest. She's there to stay. Like you said, 5 clean sheets. Couple of good saves in there as well from the game the other day. Obviously, I don't know if she'll be rotated tomorrow because it's only Latvia. She might keep her place. But I think, yeah, just a good start. You know, I don't even think she's had a bad season this year. You know, obviously, I don't think any of the goals we've shipped have necessarily been, or not that I can remember, been her fault directly. Maybe somebody will correct me on that. But, you know, and again, last season as well, she was pulling off quality saves as well. So I think what you've seen, and we've talked about this as a group a lot, is that when she got that competition from Sophie in summer, for me, we've seen an improved Mary. And I think she's really had to up her game, because we can tell now, for me, she seems to have gone up another level. You know, last year was A level. I think she's kicked on again. So, yeah, delighted for Mary. I think she's at a good age now for sort of hitting the peak of her career. I still think there's more to come. And like I said before, you know, there's a couple of bits she can improve on. But listen, you know, she's here to stay, and club and country. So I think people just need to get behind her rather than hammering her every week and looking at the negatives. Just give her a bit of confidence. You know, she's a quality player. She's a great person. Good after the game with fans. You know, you've seen her with, you know, like Anthony's lads, for example. You know, they've got a pair of gloves from her. Doesn't have to do that. She's always, you know, cheerful and absolutely buzzing. You know, she loves the fans. So, yeah, can't speak highly of Mary.
I'm going to take what you said, Matt. She is at the peak of her career. I was probably the only one of the ones that absolutely went crazy when I heard that we were signing Mary, because I've followed her since she started playing in the WSL. For people that don't know, she started at Donny Bell's in the first year of the WSL in 2011. Was there for a couple of years and then got signed by Birmingham. It was doing well there until she got pushed out of a number 1 place by a little old keeper called Rebecca Spencer, who is now obviously the number 1 at Spurs and has been around several other clubs as well. So she wanted the game time and got signed by Bristol. When they got relegated, she played every game for them, more or less, apart from a couple. She even played when she played for Birmingham, she even played in the Champions League, which for Birmingham obviously was a highlight of their history. And then went to Bristol, and then she was there for a couple of years. Then they got relegated, and I think she must have had a word with herself and thought, look, I'm not getting anywhere here, and I want to be. So that's when she signed for Wolfsburg, arguably as a number 2. She played only 4 games, but she was in that environment of the top class players being people like Harder, Pyor, Graham Hansen, all those people testing her shots and shots after that. Obviously, the actual coaching team as well, and also being number 2 to Anna Schultz, who has been the Germany number 1 goalkeeper since Anger retired in like 2015. So being in that environment was only a good thing. And I think she got to that point where, right, I want to test myself now back in the WSL. I need a good challenge, and that's obviously when Casey called and everything aligned, and she's been all right. So, and I think it's kind of got to that point now where she's solidified herself in a team, and she's happy, and she knows maybe some things could get better, and she's worked on it. And I also think getting back into the England setup has only done her a world of good in terms of her own development. Being around other coaches and other goalkeepers and things like that. And yeah, distribution does give me a coronary heart attack every game. But apart from that, we're all good.
I'll bring Andy because I know that you're a massive goalkeeper fan anyway, but especially Mary Earps. Is it great that she's getting some positive feedback now across the whole country?
No, it is, but as you know, as Emma's just saying there, it's based on facts as well. It isn't just like fans just bringing her along. She is definitely developing into a top quality player, and she is England number one. I mean, she is at a peak now. I mean, it's funny you mentioned Phil Neville. He's just about he's basically, I don't know if it's him or Emma Hayes I dislike the most. No, actually, it would probably be Emma Hayes. I think he's probably a close second. Phil Neville, football genius, sunning himself in the bottom of the MLS, I think, at the moment, with Inter Miami. But I think, to be honest, I think that to answer the original question more directly, I think she will have a really good chance of staying number one for the Euros for a number of reasons. Obviously, goalkeeping is a confidence position more than any other position. I think the thing is as well, you look at the history of a lot of the goalkeepers. Most of them got their big break when they were subbed on, when X player got injured. That's kind of how they get their break. I think it's kind of what we were looking for at United, like with Leah being out of football before Casey brought her in. Obviously, somebody saw that Mary was on the bench and was at Wolfsburg and wasn't a bench keeper and could be number one for us. Yeah, I mean, her distribution is problematic, but it's improved a lot this season. But I think the thing what makes me think she's going to stay number one is that she does bring something slightly different than a lot of the certainly English WSL goalkeepers. She's more stocky. She doesn't get pushed around as much in the box. She sort of has a bit of a presence in the box, which is a bit less common because she's, as I said, a little bit bigger, a little bit more stocky. But also, even if Roebuck comes back now, are you really going to switch England number one? Just over 6 months before the Euros start. The defence have got used to being number one. Roebuck's got to get back to full fitness. She's got to get back to playing under the other football genius, Gareth Taylor. And when are you going to make that switch? And would you really turn down someone who's getting really good confidence and making some really good saves? I know we're all biased as United fans, but I think that it's likely that both will go to the Euros. And as long as she doesn't do that thing that Neville did about picking the goalkeeper for the match or something that he was thinking about doing or something like that, then she hopefully will keep her place as number one.
How does that, just before being kind of in, how do you think that conversation would go, Andy? If you had to suddenly say that to Roebuck and say, look, Mary Earps has done really well for club and country. How would you kind of phrase that to Roebuck? Because obviously that's going to dent her confidence. However, she's not been playing because I'm a big believer in playing people on form. And if you haven't been playing because you're injured, then you've just got to wait for your turn again. Is that kind of how you would kind of word it? The fact that Mary's playing so well currently that you just got to keep her?
Yeah, I mean, I think to be honest as well, it's just really good timing for Mary with the switch of managers. She's managed to get Serena's eye, to build that rapport, build that relationship. And unfortunately for Ellie Roebuck, she hasn't been able to do that because she's been injured. So it could just be essentially the stars aligning a little bit. I think Serena, wants to win. I'm not saying that Neville didn't, but I think she's a top class coach. Obviously, she won the Euros of Holland, wasn't it, as the manager with them. I just think that. I mean, to be honest, she's going to be less concerned about that. This is international level, and at the end of the day, I'd just say, especially with a goalkeeper, like with a club level, really, to pull your goalkeeper, they have to play really poorly for quite a bit. Look at with I think over the keeper Vega in the men's game. I think last season with De Gea and Henson, they have to play poor to be pulled because it is such a big deal, to be dropped. So I just think that she wouldn't even think of it that deeply. She'd take Roebuck, she'd take Earps, maybe one as a youth keeper, and then just think, yeah, we got a good chance at the Euros.
Kind of think you watched every game that Mary's played this season at club level. I think the games that you missed, I think they've been contact games, haven't they? So you've pretty much seen almost every minute of Mary Earps this season. What are your thoughts of her?
Yeah, I think Andy's right in what he says about kind of her stature as well. And I think I said this to you, John, the first few games that I saw, that the keepers in the WSL are very small, whereas Mary is a little bit bigger, which is to her benefit. I like everything about her. She has made a few mistakes this year, but I mean, tell me a goalkeeper that hasn't made mistakes this year. I think she was at fault for the Arsenal goal in positioning and maybe the Everton one potentially. But I mean, like I said, tell me a keeper that hasn't made a mistake this year. It's just a shame that when you make a mistake as a goalkeeper, it leads to a goal. But other than that, like you can hear her. Her communication at the back is excellent between her. I think someone mentioned in the comments earlier, her and Mannion at the back. You can hear them; they're the vocal ones, organising that back five. In the air, she comes for crosses quite well. I feel there's a couple where you think you could have come for that a little bit more. Where there's a little bit of hesitancy, but overall, she's just a very solid keeper. There's not one area where you think that's a weak point because she's good at coming out. For crosses and things like that. She's a good shot stopper. Her distribution's actually quite good. I think it looks worse because we get pressed a lot and the defenders are under more pressure, so she has to panic a little bit. So it probably looks worse than it is. But I can't think of a single area of her game where you'd look at and go, that's a weak point. So, yeah, I've been massively impressed with her. I think someone put it in the comments earlier as well. She probably has been one of our best players this year if you look at it, in terms of everyone who's played. And maybe that extra competition has done her good because, like Andy said, goalkeeper and striker is the hardest position to play in football because it's only really one spot available. So, like Andy's just said there, you've got to do really bad to get pulled out because you can imagine it now. Say if she had let's say that Arsenal game's conceded 2. If Mark then drops her for the next game, every question's going to be about, oh, you changed your keeper today. Why'd you do that? Oh, what When in actual fact, it's not that big of a deal, but in the footballing world, it seems to be a big thing if you change a goalkeeper. So, yeah, that competition's going to done her good. And I think, me and Nat have said this, and I'm sure we all have on a number of shows. This is why you need 2 players for every position because it pushes the starter to raise their level because they don't want to get dropped.
Just need to turn your volume up, Nat.
You're on mute.
So 100%. I think last year she didn't maybe have that kind of competition. She sort of knew she was going to be, not last year, but more the COVID year. So the first year she came in, she sort of knew she was the one who was going to be starting. I think she pretty much started every Conte game as well. Even a bit last year, I know everyone's talking about distribution. I think it's okay. There's times where you think, come on, but I think it's okay. There was just times where she would, I'd probably even say the last game that we had, that season, so the COVID year when it all got shut down, but there was the West Ham goal she conceded, the Everton goal with the last game we were at where we managed to see it out, and it was balls over the top, but I feel like she has really worked on a game over potentially lockdown and coming up to the season, knowing that Baggaley was coming in because Baggaley will, I thought Baggaley, I think a lot of us thought when we went to Rangers, Baggaley started, and that was a sort of a shock to everyone, and everyone was sort of like, is Baggaley going to start the season? Because I think a lot of the pre-season they were doing 50-50, which you expect, it's pre-season. But then when Baggaley started versus Rangers, I think we were like, is this Baggaley starting the season? First game before the season started, pretty much. But Mary, yeah, she's been one of our best players, and I know people are talking about Robot, this and that, but when Gareth Taylor's saying, oh, she's probably not going to be back till after January, how can she pop, unless she comes back, say February, and has the absolute season of her life in 3 months, and then that is not even a lot of games. For me, it's clear. There's no point arguing. I know Villa fans talk about Hannah Hampton. I think Hannah started the season very well. I think the saves that Hannah makes that probably no other keeper can make. Hannah might play. I've heard Hannah might play this game coming up. Fair play if she does. But for me, I think Hannah is still young, 19, 20. A lot of, not mistakes, but there's errors that she would make that maybe, an elder keeper who's a bit more wise wouldn't make. And I think you have, with a keeper like that, that's why I'm happy that Bentley and Rambo have gone out on loan because, at Man United, you can't make those mistakes, really. And then Stuart saying, Baggaley's waiting behind her. So any sort of mistakes that are made, that are sort of, you could say, clangers, because even those ones when you talk about kind of the Everton, the Arsenal, I don't think there's nothing major in it. There's nothing like, right, that was atrocious. You know what I mean? It's not saying that's atrocious. That's probably a hard word. But nothing
they're one-off errors.
There's nothing.
She's continuing to do that.
Yeah. Whereas I feel like that Baggaley has put that pressure on. Right, it's just, you make any silly mistakes, I'm there and I'll take your place. And like you say, it's pushing her on. And I just want to touch. I know we're going to go back to, but the time when I called Matt and I said Matt had been pestering me and saying, "Oh, Mary," and I think we found out. And I was like, no, Shivy's going to be the keeper. And I don't think we knew Shivy was pregnant at the time. I said, Shivy's going to be number one. There's no way. No other keeper's going to come in. Will Mary want to come in and sit on the bench? No, Mary. Next minute, I remember I was in work and it just went bing. And we pretty much heard of every player that come in. We've been out to the World Cup. We even saw the goalkeeper coach and we were like, Mary Earps. And I think there was a bit of talk and we'd heard rumours that she was going to Spurs. But late in the day, ping, Mary Earps. So I rang up and I went, Mary Earps is signing me. And Matt goes, you're joking me. I said, I told you all this. I was like, yeah, get off my phone. Beep, beep, beep. Next minute, it's like, I told Natalie back then, we should sign her now, she's come. But, obviously, I think the stars aligned for that. I do still think that potentially Siobhan got pregnant. She went, would she have come in if that didn't happen? Probably not, but it's the stars aligned. Siobhan had to take the season out. Mary came in. She was our keeper. And then obviously, Shivy is what it is. She got a kid, and I'm sure she wouldn't change that just to be United's number one for a couple of seasons. But yeah, no, I think she's really stepped up. And like I said, I think it is maybe potentially Baggers coming in. Happy birthday, Baggers. And putting that pressure on.
I think Mary would have come back to the WSL anyway because she'd had them that season or so with Wolfsburg, and she was developing, but she wasn't playing, and I think it was very brave of her to leave the WSL to go to a place like Wolfsburg, knowing full well that you wouldn't play. And as a stepping stone to go up in your career. Maybe it was luck that she ended up at United, like we say, because Shivy was pregnant. She probably would have gone to a team like Spurs if not, but then I don't think she would have wanted to be behind Becky Spencer again. So, well, would she have been? That's for another show. But I think Baggaley coming in is definitely good competition for her. Baggaley didn't get enough praise with the season she was at Bristol. Yes, Bristol conceded a lot, but it would have been a hell of a lot more if Baggaley wasn't as on form as she was. And I think again it might be the same issue, well not issue, with Baggaley. Like she probably now wants to step up a gear in terms of her career and develop herself in that environment with Mary. And if that wasn't the case, I don't think Rambo and the others would have gone on loan because they would have stayed and been in that environment. But I think she's not so bad.
I think for me, John, it's about time I had a decent number two. And I know that's probably harsh, but I think like we've all talked about, somebody to push Mary, like properly push Mary. You look at Sophie Baggaley and she's obviously been around the England setup. She's been on the bench for the first team, the senior team a few times. She's obviously played with Birmingham at a decent level when Birmingham were a good team. Played at Bristol consistently. Experienced keeper. Okay, she's not the tallest, but I think she makes up for that with sort of a movement and a footwork. And I think for me, on a free, I know most transfers are free, but for me, there's probably no better number two available out there. And I know number two sounds harsh because she's more than capable of being number one, as we've seen. But I think we needed that. And I think that was one position where, like Nat mentioned, obviously we didn't know what was happening with Shivy. Shivy was always saying she was coming back. I was never personally convinced, but I think, it's now better that we've got that experience. We've got Sundays we've all talked about to push Mary, and I think it'll do the pair of them good.
Is it not better? Sorry, Matt, I'm just going to jump in really quick. Is it not better now to have two solid goalkeepers, especially if you want to be challenging for cups and Champions League or whatever, before you burn them both out?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's it. But like I said, either for me could be number one. And I actually thought in summer, we'd actually start the season with Baggaley. I just think because she played in Scotland and quite a few other pre-season games, I thought actually maybe she'll come in, she'll take the number one spot. She didn't, but that doesn't matter. Like you say, you do need at least two quality players in every position. And I think goalkeeper's the one at the minute where we can actually say, you know what, we're well stocked there. You could argue midfield, but at the minute with Ladd and Reese not getting games, it's a difficult one. But the one where I'm 100% happy in our squad at the minute is the goalkeeping situation, because I think, like I say, it's quality. So let's hope now we can just kick on and push up the table, hit that third spot.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think, to be honest, I mean, you said about 4 goalkeepers is untenable in my opinion. I think, especially with the shorter squads, the cap squads. I agree. I was wondering whether or not even Bagley would nick the number 1 jersey offer when we were going to play against Reading. But now I think it's pretty solidly Mary's jersey. Obviously, we've linked to how she's even pushing in England number 1 now as well. I mean, I was just looking when we were talking then, and I believe actually, and hopefully people can quote me on this if I'm wrong, she's the second oldest member of the squad at 28. There's a few that are 28 looking at that. So she's obviously got quite, as you say, a leadership or a senior role as well. Obviously, Bagley's going to learn from her directly as a goalkeeper as well. But I think that's another thing about being, just the right age in the right place at the right time. And she's just looking more confident and more comfortable in herself as well, to be honest. I think looking at what we've got at the minute, I think it's a given to keep both goalkeepers, obviously Mary and Bagley. With Rambo and Bentley, I think one has to go. Not a comment on them. I just think we just can't carry 4 goalkeepers, and it's actually not fair on at least one of those youth keepers, because there isn't really a realistic chance that they're ever going to get a consistent playing time at United anytime soon. So I would say, obviously the only game I've seen Fran play this season was when we were at Bristol watching Bristol Sheffield. I mean, obviously that might be a good position for her to move to permanently. Rambo, I know she's United through and through, and she's, she's obviously come through our academy team. I've never really been convinced personally, but what do I know? It's just what I can see. And again, but if she's happy to stay as a third keeper, that's great for United. But if I was advising Rambo, I'd probably get her to move on as well. And then again, that gives maybe the third keeper for a pure youth keeper, for an actual dev keeper to move into. And obviously, I don't know what our dev keepers are like at the minute on the under-21s. But I think that, again, might galvanise, the academy that's left. But yeah, I suppose that's a roundabout way of saying I'd cut it down to Mary and Sophie by the end of the season.
I think you need 3 keepers. Definitely. I think, 4 maybe too much. And I think we ended up with a load because, like, Shivy got pregnant, and then Rambo got injured, and then we had to sign Aurora. Aurora left. We had 5 at one point. It's too much. Yeah, 4 is too much. But I think Rambo and Fran, I know Vicky's just touched on it there. They've signed a new deal there. For me, one of them 2 is the future. They're about 20 each, 20 years old. We're talking about Mary being 28, and I think this is like the form of, the best form of seeing her in United. I'm not going to say form of her life because I don't know. I've not seen her before that. But, that's why they've both gone out on loan. Whether they both go out on loan again, I don't know. But for me to just get rid of both of them, it makes no sense. That I think, yes, they're potentially going to cut it down to 3, and it'll be one of them 2 will stay on. And whoever does better on loan, whoever Mark prefers, yeah. But for me, calling up the 21 keeper, I think even, we had someone who I've talked about. We talked about Reese. We had Sophie Hilliard, and I feel like she was sort of one of the best England youth keepers coming up. She does play for the 19s. We've got Saf Patel. I don't know her surname, but Saf, she plays for Wales. She was training up with the Wales, but she's 19. And for me, like you said, we're talking about a keeper who's 28, who's out of prime. What's the point of getting rid of 2 keepers who are 21 to put in a 19, 20-year-old keeper? No. For me, I think Saf, if she does stay, that pathway will still be there. You can see it with the other 2. They'll loan her out. People are getting loaned out. For me, I think it'll be one of Rambo and Fran, potentially. But for me, I think if you get rid of both, I just think it doesn't make sense. I mean, I think Rambo and Fran are both in the 23s. So that's the future of England. That's how England see their goalkeepers, them 2. Then you got Hannah as well. But obviously Hannah's playing because she's first team. But for me, I think potentially when Mary retires, you're looking at Bentley or Rambo being the England number 1. So for me, I think it would be like another Ebony Salmon. if we got rid of them, let them, one of them leave, then we're looking back and thinking, well, we had the England first choice goalkeeper here. It makes no sense. So yeah, I think it'll be one of them two. But I feel with where we're at, I think Tooney's just got a 4-year deal. I think deals are increasing in women's football, and I feel like that they'll be around for a long time. There's no point letting any of those two keepers leave. Whether they sign them both again, I don't know. But for me, definitely you've got to keep them because, like I said, that's the future there.
Kind of, if you had to have 3 goalkeepers, is that kind of how you would structure it? Like 2 real good goalkeepers fighting it out between themselves, and then 1 youth prospect coming through, or do you see like 2 goalkeepers, like 2 very good goalkeepers, is creating some sort of confusion at the club? I.e., you don't know who's going to be number 1, and could that create harm, or how would you kind of set it up?
Yeah, I mean, it's weird. It seems to be a Man United thing at the moment because the men's first team have got 4, you could argue, number 1s. We had 5 last year when Romero was there. The under-23s have got 4 number 1s, and I don't know why. And obviously with the women's side as well, we seem to have 3 or 4 that could play number 1. So I don't know why we do it. I think 3 is the best. In an ideal scenario for me personally, you'd have 1 about Mary's age, about 28, as just solid number 1. You'd have like Sophie's age, kind of 24, 25, but maybe not as good. So it's solid number 2. And then you would have a younger player who's kind of developing around like 19, 20. And the problem that you've got, though, in women's, there's not enough games to rotate. It's not like with the men's, the Carabao Cup, and if you're in Europa League or Champions League, there's all these random games. There's not enough games to play to rotate your keepers. So it's even harder then. There's only 1 spot. And like we were discussing earlier, unless you make an absolute howler, you're not going to be dropped. So, yeah, I think ideal scenario, it's Mary, it's Sophie, and then one of the youngsters. Because, like you said there, you've got girls coming through the academy that are goalkeepers and these kinds of things. You can't carry 4 because you're just not going to get game time. So, yeah, there's going to be a decision that needs to be made, come the summer. Because it's not really fair on them either. They're players at the end of the day. They want to play. There's no point in them just sitting as a 4th choice goalkeeper because you're never going to play. So for their own career, they probably need to move on. So yeah, ideal scenario, you have 1 Mary's age, 1 Sophie's age, and then a much younger keeper as well.
Awesome. We have come towards the end of the show now. Matt, schedule for this week then, because it's kind of a little bit different this week with a few things going on. We're still not too sure what we're doing on Friday, but it's your show on Tuesday, isn't it?
Tomorrow.
Yeah, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Yeah, tomorrow, obviously, my show. A little bit of a Leicester preview for Sunday and the top 5 summer signings of the WSL. So we're going to go through that. Obviously, there's yourself, me, Anthony join us as well. So the 3 of us are going to pick anybody you like. You can chuck in 5 Uniteds if you really want to, or you can keep it WSL in general. So that's tomorrow. Wednesday, you've got the pre-record from Andy Slater. He's talking about his Barmy Army article that he very kindly puts together. Thursday, what have you got Thursday? You got Rob, haven't you, from Chelsea? He's from Chelsea supporters group. A little bit on transfers, so that'll be good as well. Don't think Rob's been on before, so that's another good guest that we're welcoming on. Friday, as you said, John, we don't know. Anything could happen. Saturday Night Live, and Sunday Match Day. So yeah, bit of everything.
So it's a fantastic week. That's it. Thank you to everybody who's joined us in the comments. We've got quite a few people watching throughout the evening on and off. Thanks to everybody for coming on, and we shall see you again very soon. Thank you, guys.